Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. This time out, I'm joined by Sweetwater's Don Carr.
Hey, thanks.
Welcome, Don. And we are checking out an amazingly compact and flexible amplifier from Yamaha. Let's get started. This is the Yamaha THR10, a desktop amplifier. It's very portable, compact, has tons of modeled sounds in it, built-in effects. It has recording capabilities. You can play tracks through it and play along with them. It has a headphone output. It really is an amazingly versatile little amplifier. So Don, I know you've been checking this out for about a week now. I've seen this on your desk in your office. You've been playing through it. Give us your first impressions of what this amplifier is all about.
Man, when I set it up on the desktop, the thing that really struck me was that, it sounds great at a close range. It's really designed to play at a lower volume on your desktop like that and just really sound and feel really good, like an amplifier.
So let's take a quick tour of some of the features of the THR10. This thing really is loaded up with things that make it very flexible. Of course, we have our guitar input. We've got basic controls here for gain, master level. We've got a 3-band EQ, bass, middle, treble. We also have an effects control that takes us from chorus to flanger to phaser to tremolo, and you have different variations within there as well. Next up, we have the delay reverb control, and this gives us different variations of ambient type sound. So we've got straight delays, we've got delays plus reverb, we've got a hall reverb, and we also have a spring reverb model in here as well. On the far side of the front panel, we have control over the overall output level of the guitar here with a guitar knob, and then there's a USB aux knob, and that allows us to balance tracks that are coming from your computer or tracks that are coming into the aux input from an MP3 player or an iPod against the guitar signal. Now, as I mentioned, you can play back tracks from your computer through the THR10. We've actually got stereo speakers in here. There are two 3.15-inch speakers, so we get full stereo for tracks that are playing through the unit. We also get full stereo on all the effects. Now, I mentioned you can play tracks. There's a USB port on the back panel. You connect that up to your computer. You can play tracks from the computer, but you can also use the THR10 as an audio interface for your computer, and we're going to check that out in much more detail later in this video. Rounding things out, we have a headphone output, and we also have a control for setting tap tempo for our delays. And finally, we have 5 user presets, and you can call those up right here from the front panel by clicking on those. Or there's a software editor that runs in your computer that gives you access to an unlimited number of presets.
And one more nice feature, if you hold down the tap tempo button, it actually mutes the signal and it brings up a tuner that's on board.
Yeah, that's really handy having that built into the amplifier. The THR10 creates its sounds using virtual circuitry modeling, which is a proprietary process that Yamaha created, and really gives you authentic feeling and sounding amplifier models. Now, there are 8 models on board. Let's take a listen to those. So we'll start at flat. Now basically what this is the dry signal without any processing being applied to it. So this is what the guitar sounds like coming through the THR10 with no modeling. Go ahead. So you can hear that's basically the dry signal of the guitar coming through the amplifier and coming out of the stereo speakers. The next model type is acoustic. Now you can plug an acoustic guitar in here, and there are specifically models created for that. So we'll switch over to it. Of course, we have an electric here. You'll hear an acoustic through the amp a little bit later. All right, so again, a nice shaped sound that works very well with an acoustic guitar with an undersaddle pickup. And again, you'll hear that later in this video. We've got a bass preset for plugging electric bass in, and that really increases the versatility of this little amplifier because you can run acoustics through it, electrics through it, bass guitars through it. And again, later in the video when we're doing some recording, you'll see how that allows you to very easily layer up tracks.
So let's move over and check out the 5 electric guitar sounds, and we'll start with the clean sound.
Okay, we'll dial that up.
Yeah.
It's a nice pristine amplifier sound. Since we have a nice clean sound dialed up here, let's go ahead and check out the effects. So we've got 4 effects here under the effect knob. We've got chorus, flange, phaser, and also tremolo. As you turn the knob, you step through the different types of effects, and you also increase the intensity of those effects. And you hear that as Don's playing and I turn the knob. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's our dry sound, and I'll turn it up to add the different effects. Okay?
So there's a separate knob for the ambient effects. You have the option of either delay or delay and reverb together, or two different types of reverb. You have a spring and a hall. So let's check those out.
Okay. So there's lots of different variations available there, and using the software editor running on your computer, you can really get in and dial in all the parameters exactly the way you want them on all of those effects.
So let's check out the rest of the models. You know what's nice is they're really all based on classic amplifiers.
Right, the clean sound, and there's kind of the Class A British sound and some of the higher gain British sound, American sound. So yeah, let's step through those. You heard the clean sound there, and now we'll move to the crunch sound, which is like a Class A British amplifier. Now we have a range of gain levels available for all these models as well. So if we turn this down to say about 10 o'clock, this is what you get. Then as we bring that up, of course, more crunch will come into the tone. And we can step up to about 3 o'clock, bring our master down a little bit. Okay. And all the way up. So even within a single model type, you have a lot of different gain structures you can work with, and having the tone controls, you can adjust those tones exactly the way you want them to sound.
Okay, so let's move to the lead sound. That's based on a plexiglass-fronted classic British amp.
Right, okay, let's check that out. I'm going to dial the gain back down here to about 10 o'clock.
Okay.
All right, we'll bring that up. Here's about 12 o'clock. You really hear the guts of it start to come in when you get that gain up a little bit. Here's about 3 o'clock. Nice. Should we move to the Brit high gain model?
Absolutely.
All right, let's check that out. And again, we're back to about 10 o'clock on the gain control. Here we are at about 12 o'clock. But with a high gain amp, of course, you want to turn that up a little bit. Let's go to about 4 o'clock. So nice and dynamic. Nice. Now we can also add some bottom end thump to that. We can pull back the mids a little bit, add some highs, get a little more of a scoop sound. What do you have there? All right, so a lot of power for tailoring the sound.
All right, let's check out the modern amp.
Okay, We'll move up to that, and I'm going to move back to about 10 o'clock on the gain control. Let's set these back to 12 o'clock as well on the tone controls. Go ahead. Nice, here's 12 o'clock. And here we are about 3 o'clock. Lots and lots of gain and sustain there. Now again, you have access to a lot more parameters when you move over to the software editor for the THR10. So if you connect this to your computer by USB, you can access a lot more effects. Should we take a look at how that works?
Let's do.
One of the nice extras that you get with a THR10 is a software editor that runs on both Mac and Windows. And this allows you access to all the parameters on the front panel of the THR10, as well as some extended parameters. So let's take a look at the THR10 editor. All you need is to hook up your THR10 to your computer using USB. In my case, I've got an Apple Mac Mini. Then you load up the software. As you can see, the software looks very similar to the front panel. We've got our different amp types here: gain, master, bass, middle, treble, but we have some extended functions as well. For example, we have a control that allows us to select among the 6 different cabinets that are available inside the THR10. That's not available on the front panel. You can only access that here inside the software editor. Likewise, we can only access the compressor inside the software editor. So we can turn that on and off here. We can choose between a stompbox style compressor or a rack style compressor, which gives us even more control. We can choose our effect here. We have chorus, flanger, phaser, tremolo, and the different controls for those different effects. Turn those back off. We've got our delay and all the settings we need for controlling our delay, including high cut, low cut, and level. Down here we have our reverb setting, and we have our choice of 4 different reverb types with all the different controls here. We've got pre-delay, low cut, high cut, ratios for blending the highs and the lows, as well as a mix level for the reverb. And finally we have the gate, which again is only accessible inside the software editor. So we've got a threshold control for that as well as a release. So if you have a noisy patch or a noisy guitar, single coil pickups for example, you can use that gate to quiet things down. Now when you've created a preset, it's very easy to save it to the library. Just click the button here, give it a name, choose where you want to save it, and it's that simple. It's saved into your library, and now when you click on that, it'll be loaded into the THR10, and that'll be the sound you're playing. The THR10 editor software also comes with 35 factory presets that you can load into the THR10. Now these are different than the 5 presets that are on the front panel. They're actually different sounds that have been programmed that you can load in. So for example, the first one is called Modern HM Backing. Let's hear that, Don. We've got Crunch Blues Lead. Here's Clean Compressed Solo. Fusion Solo. Hot Funk Rock Cutting. Then we also have presets that are created for bass. We've got 5 different bass presets here, as well as 5 different acoustic presets. The THR10 editor gives you extremely accurate control over the settings that you want to make for the sounds that are coming from the THR10. For example, you can use the knobs to change things, and this affects what's coming out of the amp. So here, Don, this is a short delay. Here's a longer delay. Or we can actually type in a specific delay time. Here's 408 milliseconds. Now an interesting thing is that when you turn the front panel controls, it's actually reflected inside the editor. There's 2-way communication here. So if I move the bass control on the amp, you can actually see it moving inside the software as well. This makes it extremely intuitive for creating patches, very easily making the sounds that you want to hear from the THR10. Let's take a look at how easy it is to record tracks using the THR10. What I've got going on here is I've got the THR10 connected to my Mac Mini using USB. Now when you do that, the THR10 basically becomes your audio interface. It feeds 4 tracks into Studio One, which is the DAW I'm running, and it sends a stereo track back out, plays through the speakers. Now the 4 tracks that are going into Studio One are 2 process tracks, so you get the stereo sound coming out of the amplifier. Then you also get 2 tracks of the dry guitar signal that you could reamp later, you could run through different effects, you could use plugins on those, whatever you want to do with them. So inside your DAW, this will show up as 2 different outputs, which are feeding to your monitors. In this case, they're feeding back to the speakers in the THR10. And if we look at the inputs, we've got our amplified inputs here and our dry inputs here. And we can also set those up as stereo pairs. Now recording a track is as easy as creating a track in your DAW and then assigning your inputs. So here, for example, I've got my .8 amp is the track that I'm going to record here, and I'm using inputs A1 and 2, which are the process sound coming from the THR10. Below that, I've got another stereo track, .8 dry, which is the dry signal of the guitar going straight into the DAW. And I'll show you how that sounds in just a second. Now I've created presets to use for this track, for the bass, the acoustic guitar, and 2 different electric guitar tracks, and we'll load those using the THR10 editor. So in this case, I've loaded up a patch called .8 delay. Don, play for us and show us what that sounds like. And we've got that delay set up so it's playing a dotted 8th note along with the tempo of the track. Let's record our track. What I've done is laid down a click track to get Don started, and then the drums will come in after a few bars. Let's check out what the tracks sound like now. I'll mute the click track, mute the drums, So we'll mute our click track, we'll mute our drums over here. And this is the process sound that was recorded through the THR10 direct into the computer. Now simultaneously, I also recorded the dry sound coming from the guitar. So that's the sound of the guitar just going direct into the THR10 and then directly into the computer with no processing at all. And again, we could use that later, we could apply plugins to it, run it out to an amplifier, whatever we want to do to that. We've kind of recorded that as a safeguard track that we could go back and use if we need to. Now we'll move on and record our second track. So let's unmute our drums and our click. And I've created a second preset. We'll mute our dry track and leave our amplified track. I've created a second preset using the THR editor. It's called Big Rhythm, so we'll load that up. It's as easy as clicking on the preset name. We'll arm our Big Rhythm track, rewind here, and we're ready to go. Now we'll add an acoustic guitar track into our song. I've already created the track here. We'll record arm that. And I want to change over the sound that my THR10 is processing to an acoustic sound that I've created. So we'll switch back to the editor. I'll choose my acoustic steel string patch that I created earlier, and we should be set to go. Don, let's hear it. Excellent. Here we go. Now, one of the nice things about the THR10 is we have this guitar level control and this USB aux level control. Now what these do is determine the level of the incoming guitar signal. In this case we're having a bass play through, and we can balance that using the USB aux control with the tracks that are coming from the computer. So if you're playing along with a song live, or if you're practicing along with a song, learning a lead, you can balance the level of those two using this. Or if you're tracking, as in this case, you can balance your incoming guitar or bass along with what's coming back to the tracks that you're overdubbing from on the computer. This allows you to create the perfect balance, and you don't have any problems with latency at all. It's a direct recording as if you're playing straight through an amplifier. So let's get ready for our bass track. I've already created the track. We'll record arm that, and I'm going to switch back over to my editor and call up a bass patch that I created earlier. Here's one called conveniently Bass. Don, let's hear that. Rewind, and here we go. The THR10 really is amazingly flexible, and that allows it to serve as a centerpiece for so many things that you do as a guitarist, bass player, or an acoustic guitarist, or if you're recording. It's a great value. I think you're really going to want to check this one out. My thanks to Don Carr for helping me out with this episode of Guitars and Gear, and thank you for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more guitars, more amps, more effects, and we'll be making lots of music. I'm Mitch Gallagher.